Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason. I'm speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And today I am continuing my top 20 favorite movies of the 1990s of that decade. And I've done one video from 20 to 16. So today I'm going to do, in this video, number 15 to number 11. So we're going to kick off number 15 with a movie called October Sky. Came out in 1999, so right at the end of the decade. This was a really great true story, based on a book by I think Homer Hickman, I believe his name is. This movie is based off of what book that he wrote about his story growing up. I'm forgetting now. He grew up like in West Virginia or Kentucky, and he grew up in a small coal mining town where everybody worked at the coal mines, and he didn't want to work at the coal mines. It's kind of tough. I mean, very dangerous conditions, very hard labored job. Uh, you know, Cave-ins, and also, of course, people eventually die of lung cancer, getting coal dust in their lungs. And even his dad was like the foreman at the coal mine, and he didn't want to grow up working at the coal mine. I suppose nobody did, but that's just what you did when you lived in a small town in the 1950s. And so he's trying to figure a way to go to college and not work in the coal mines. And he uh, discovers kind of rockets, or well, Sputnik was in the air, and so he got really interested in rockets and how rockets work and building his own rockets, and ended up winning uh, first place like in a science fair, like a world science fair or a state science fair or something like that, and ends up getting a scholarship to college. It's kind of the way the movie ends. Spoiler for the movie. It's a happy ending, but anyways, in true life, that happened, and he ended up working for NASA eventually. When he got older after college. Anyway, so it's a really cool, inspirational story, feel good story. Um, really love the father-son relationship in there. Father's very tough on him. They have a bit of a falling out at a point, but then in the end, the father actually does love his son. He's just, it's the way he's built, I guess, is to be real tough, and has a hard time showing affection and all that. But I do love that story between the two. And I just love the inspirational story of working hard and trying to accomplish your dream. Very good performance from Jake Gyllenhaal. First movie I saw him in. He's a bit younger here, and he gives such a great performance. Of course, now he's, I think, one of the best actors working today. Has such a great range. Here he's playing a teenager. Does a great job. And Chris Cooper plays his dad. First movie I ever saw Chris Cooper in. Chris Cooper is another really great actor. He won an Oscar later on for Best Supporting Actor for adaptation. But anything I see him in, he's just spectacular, and he's one of my favorite actors. I'd say kind of character actors, almost, I would say. And this is maybe my favorite performance of his, Chris Cooper. I mean, I think he could have been Oscar nominated for this role. He was so good. Anyway, so I love those two roles are so good. Um, the actress who plays the teacher, I'm forgetting her name at the top of my mind. She's really good. Another Oscar-winning actress. But yeah, great film score too. I love the score. Also has some 50s soundtrack music because they're in the 50s. That's really good. But yeah, overall musical score is great. Drama, comedy. Yeah, great movie, October Sky. Number 15 on my list. Number 14 on my list is The Truman Show. Came out in 1998. Of course, starring Jim Carrey, who's probably the biggest actor in the 90s, one of the biggest actors at this point, mostly known for his comedy. The Truman Show is such an interesting idea. I love the concept of this idea that you take a kid, and the parents basically sell the kid to this movie studio, and they video his life from a kid up to his adulthood at the point of this movie. And it's a reality show where the main character doesn't know he's in a reality show. He thinks everything that's happening is real, but nothing's real. Everything is a studio, and all the people around him are actors. Even his parents are actors. His wife is an actress. His best friend's an actor. All pretending to be these things, because it's like the biggest reality show of all time. It gets huge ratings, and that's why they keep on with this reality show, just showing just everyday life, what's going on in his life, and people love it. Yeah, it's such a good idea. And this is like really before the reality show boom happened, right around this time, maybe right after this time. Reality shows became huge. It's the biggest, maybe the biggest genre of TV right now is reality shows. And so it's kind of interesting to look at that. And it just kind of shows him as the movie goes on, he's starting to realize that something's not right and that things aren't as real as he thinks. And he knows something's up and starts to unravel that he's not living in a real world, that everything's made up and fantasy. Anyways, such a great concept, love it. Jim Carrey, really good performance by him. Known for comedy, here he does a little bit of both drama and comedy. I would say the movie's a comedy, I think mostly, but Jim Carrey does some good dramatic. It's the first movie I think I've seen him where he really gave some good dramatic work too, along with comedy. His comedy wasn't so silly. Most of his comedy, Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, all really silly comedies. This really was more in the middle for him. Wasn't silly comedy. The comedy was a little more subtle, I think, and he does a good job there. Ed Harris, amazing. Got nominated for supporting actor role, playing like the guy that's in charge of the whole reality show. Of course, he's always solid. Gives a really good performance there. But yeah, so it's just love the concept and the ending and everything that goes along with it. Yeah, I think it's a really kind of groundbreaking movie that we haven't seen before at that time. So that's number 14, The Truman Show. Yeah, so far I don't have any of these Blu-rays. I used to have the DVDs, but I've gotten rid of a lot of my DVDs because I want to upgrade to Blu-rays. So I just haven't bought the Blu-rays on these yet. So if I don't have the Blu-rays, it's because I haven't gone around to buy them yet. But eventually I'll get the Blu-rays. Um, and then my next movie is one of my favorite comedies of all time. I would say probably my favorite, maybe second favorite comedy of this decade, if you want to say, and that is Tommy Boy. Came out in 1995, starring the great Chris Farley. Just absolutely fantastic. One of the greatest physical comedians we've ever had. He's coming off of, I think he's still probably with Saturday Night Live or just coming off Saturday Night Live at this point. And to me, he's the funniest guy to ever come from Saturday Night Live. I mean, when he was on Saturday Night Live, he had some of the funniest sketches of all time. And it's just, he can get you to laugh just with a look, with a fall, with some kind of physical gesture. He can make you laugh really hard. One of the few guys I think that can really do that well. And he was a guy that you just almost didn't need a script for. You just said, okay, here's the scene. You put the camera on him, come up with something funny. And he could come up with something funny that you could never script, which I think is very unique to Chris Farley. And unfortunately, this is about the only good movie he made. And this is the first starring role for him. He was known for some supporting roles with like Wayne's World 2, Coneheads. He did a decent job in small roles. But this was the first one was like, we're going to give him the main lead, see if he can carry a movie. And he does such a good job here. Great performance. I mean, also is very funny. It's physical, he falls down. His character is, stupid and fat. And so he plays off of those two things really well. But he's also a very nice guy, very genuine, very, likable character. And I think that's what's so great about this character and about Chris Farley's performance is just how likable Tommy Boy, the main character, is. That you really feel for him throughout the movie and the plight that he's going through, besides laughing really hard at everything he's doing. So definitely greatest performance Chris Farley's ever given. And one of my favorite comedic performances of all time, I think, is in this movie, Tommy Boy. Also has David Spade, of course. And they were such a great combo because Chris Farley was so good with the physical comedy and, and all that and being kind of the stupid, guy, and then Dave Spade was good at kind of the opposite. He wasn't so much physical comedy, but he's more verbal comedy, and he was more of the serious, straight-laced kind of guy, sarcastic. He's very dark, sarcastic humor, kind of an unlikable character. Dave Spade's very good at unlikable characters, and that's kind of the way they play off the Tommy Boy and Dave Spade's character in this movie. Really play off together so well. Of course, like I said, one's fat, one's skinny. One's more physical, the other one's more verbal. It works so well together. They only made one other movie, Black Sheep, which wasn't, I think, very good. So Unfortunately, I would love to see them have done more movies because they could have been one of the great duos of all time, I think. And they were friends in real life, of course, all both coming from Saturday Night Live. Yeah, so that was great. Rob Lowe comes in with the bad guy. Brian Dennehy is the father, has a good part here. Just overall, just yeah, one of the funniest movies of all time. But not only that, but just the story is actually pretty interesting. This underdog story of the character, and it's good conflict, good uh, good plot twists in it. So overall, really done well for a comedy. Not to mention, it's just one of the funniest movies I've ever seen, and still to this day still holds up as just a funny, and it's a movie that I quote quite often. Anyway, so that's number 13, Tommy Boy. Number 12. Now here I got some Blu-rays of these. Number 12, number 11 are very connected to my favorite Pixar movies that they've made. I think the only two left out on this decade. They were great coming up, starting in 1995 and on into the 2000s. They were just making one great movie after another. And it all starts with this movie, Toy Story. Came out in 1995. The original Pixar movie, the original computer graphic animated movie, really changed the game. I mean, I remember at the time, yeah, I've never seen a computer animated movie before, and I saw this in the movie theater, and it just blew my mind. The animation and and it kind of changed everything because after Pixar and then DreamWorks kind of went on board with doing computer animated, and then Disney didn't really get on board until like the early 2000s, so a little bit later. Then now almost every movie is computer animated. So this really changed the animation. So it's definitely one of the most significant movies and influential movies. But overall, it's just a solid animated movie as far as story. Good. I love the concept of toys that when you're not around, they come alive and they talk to each other and they plan. And I just love that there's like this toy community. I think one of the great parts, my favorite part of the movie, is that when Andy's away, they have meetings and and they discuss things like moving day, birthday, and they have seminars with and they play board games, and I don't know. I just love that whole community that they create. It's such a great idea for a movie. Of course, and then you have the whole, Buzz Lightyear and Woody. And I love that Woody's like the de facto leader of the group because he's the most popular toy. It's such a good idea. It makes sense. And I love that Buzz Lightyear is like this new, cool space toy that is taking his thunder. It's almost taking away his leadership in a way because he's now the more favorite toy, and how he doesn't want that to happen. And the chemistry between those two characters, Woody and Buzz, are so great. How they're enemies, kind of, and then they become friends. And Buzz's character arc is so good. Like I said, this is such a great screenplay, and I think everybody would say what's so great about this and what made Pixar so great is their screenwriting was so good. But I love Buzz's whole character arc of thinking that he's the only Buzz Lightyear and not knowing that he's just one toy that's a Buzz Lightyear and there's a bunch of other Buzz Lightyears. And that whole character makes it very funny, And then when he realizes that he's not the only Buzz Lightyear, it's actually a very emotional scene kind of with him, and very, just a great scene of him figuring that out, and great part of the movie, I think. And anyway, so a great voice work with Tom Hanks as Woody and Tim Allen as Buzz, and then you got a lot of the ones like Don Rickles. I'm forgetting some. Jim Varney's in there. Rex is maybe my favorite character. He makes me laugh so hard. The actor, I forget, I think his name's Sean something. Anyways, so good there. I'm forgetting Ham. What's his name? But anyways, great voice work all around. Great story. Very funny movie. Very interesting concept. Really changed everything with Toy Story at number 12 on my list. Last movie I'm going to talk about, very connected with Toy Story, of course. The first one, because it is the sequel, Toy Story 2, which came out, I believe, 1997? 99. So this came out in 1999, 4 years later. I think because Bug's Life was in between those two. So this, I think, was the third movie that they did, which is sequel to Toy Story. I put this slightly above Toy Story. just because it's a little bit funnier. I laughed a little more, and still, overall, of course, great characters like the first one, and story is different, but yet still pretty interesting. It kind of touches on immortality of these toys. What happens when Andy gets older? Eventually, he's not going to be playing with toys anymore. That happens to all toys. So what happens at that point? And it kind of touches on that, which I think is actually a pretty interesting concept for these toys. Do they, pass on to another master or whatever, or do they get thrown away? They're not really human, so I don't know if they can die or they just cease to be, interesting. Anyways, idea that they bring on, and yeah, just overall, just when they get into the toy barn, so many great funny moments there. I love the different toys that are introduced. And Buzz finds another Buzz, and that's absolutely hilarious. And do Star Wars references, Jurassic Park references. So I love all the movie references that they throw in there. So overall, just one of the funniest movies, animated movies I've seen, and one of my favorite Pixar movies. Anyways, and I'm a huge fan of a lot of the good animated movies at this time, and Pixar especially was so good. Anyway, so that closes out my list today. Number 11, Toy Story 2. So at the end, the next I'll do 10 through 6, and we'll do my top 10 in the 1990s. Anyway, so thank you a lot for watching this video and subscribing and liking and all that and watching. I just really appreciate everybody that takes the time to listen to me talk and give my opinion. And just, yeah, please comment and tell me what you think about these movies or some 90s movies that you love. Love to hear it and love to talk back to you guys. So thank you. I appreciate you all.